Good evening, everyone. This is Angy Stewart from My Inner Light or Miami Inner Light here at Kardec Radio. So it doesn't matter if you are listening to this talk through kardecradio.com or if you are seeing this video live or if you're seeing the video later on, the recorded version. We are very happy that you are here and welcome to this study. So just to start, I would like to let you know that tonight is an extra study because the study should have happened last week. And I was in New York City traveling for business, and I also visited my loving Spiritist center called the Inner Enlightenment. I love them, and they were celebrating 11 years old. So it was a blessing to be there. But the day of the study, I was in a friend's house and the internet didn't work, so it was a big problem. I had to cancel last minute. But that's it. We are here tonight, very excited to pick up the study again. So if you are new to the study, it's very simple. We study for 1 hour, 2 books, 30 minutes each book. The first book is Thought and Life by the Spirit of Emmanuel. And the second book is The Gospel According to Spiritism. Tonight we are in chapter 22 and we are going to read about guilt. And as we always do, to start, we do a little prayer just to connect us with the enlightened spirits. And if you want, we always put a bottle of water so the enlightened spirits can bless it, they can energize it, and we can use it as our medication through the week. So right now, I just would like to invite you to close your eyes for a few seconds while we do our initial prayer. Dear God, beloved Master Jesus, thank you so much for bringing us here tonight. Please, Master, help all of us that will be listening to this study to be able to be connected to our guardian angels in order to be able to open up our minds, focus, understand what we will be reading, more especially to help us to connect and to put in practice the beautiful messages of those books. Thank you so much. So be it. Very good. So if you are here, if you are new, please go to My Inner Light Facebook page. The address is here. And then you can go to photos. And there you can see the pictures of both books. So you can follow the studies. So we are going to start with Thought and Life, chapter 22, Guilt, and it's page 85. So I just would like to say hello to the ones who just arrived here. So hello, Francine. Very, very nice to see you here. This is awesome. Jaqueline Monteiro. Welcome, welcome, Jaqueline. Carla Marques, my dear Carla, always helping. Very welcome, guys. So let's go. I will read, and please feel free to put your comments or questions or whatever you want. And as soon as we finish, we can start discussing. Number 22, guilt. We develop feelings of guilt whenever we avoid fulfilling our duty. This then leads to various shades of remorse that thereby activates an infiltration of darkness within the delicate tissues of our soul. While repenting, the mental reflexes undergo painful, haunting memories, which slowly drip poison into our thoughts. That's tough, huh? In turn, this poison emits a populace produced by our inner life that then affects the spiritual atmosphere of our home. Like a magnetic field, every creature has a halo or aura of a creative or destructive forces. This halo determines its own qualities, by the invisible rays it projects. We also establish our invisible links through affinity with this halo. Since mental waves operate under the principle of electricity, we begin to assimilate through these waves the depressed influences which emanate from the thoughts of both incarnate and discarnate beings. They attune themselves to us through our actions and influences. We project devastating energies through guilt and depression. Moreover, we often harbor a silent anger that projects our sorrow against ourselves into the displeasure and dislike towards others. The reason for these negative views, depressed by others, are the result of guilt reflexes that wheel around us and are quickly incurred by the indisposition of others. They bring over to us silent messages of rebellion, discouragement, anguish, and despair that fluctuate around our psychic atmosphere. We then become rebellious people in society, wanting either to be alone or create scandal. This mental state causes us to feed our imagination with morbid sensations of our own guilt. In this negative attitude, and lashed by the vibrations of our sickly thoughts, we reach a partial or total physical collapse. Our body and soul develop complicated illnesses whose diagnosis elude classical pathology. The guilt feelings, with all their disturbances, will continually reflect upon areas of the body and soul, corresponding to the type of remorse we carry. Likewise, neglecting one's duty also causes painful results, demanding restitution with each incarnation. Therefore, guilt requires a readjustment with true humility in order to attain a quick settlement. This act of humility preserves our vibratory equilibrium, thereby avoiding a disturbing series of long reparative work. This is why Jesus advised us, not only as a divine master, but also a wise physician, to reconcile with our adversary while we are still with him on the path. Jesus taught us how to find happiness that is based on pure love and unlimited forgiveness. Wow. This book is very powerful. All the pages, all the chapters are very powerful, but this one is especially powerful. It's very condensed. Instead of 3 pages, it's just 2 pages, and it's difficult, but we can digest little by little, trying to understand the real meaning that Emmanuel wants to pass to us. You can think like, oh, it's very depressing, it's very negative, but in reality, it's a wake-up call for us. We all have tendencies or guilty feelings of thinking like negative about other people, or sometimes thinking about horrible things we did or we think they are horrible. And instead of being able to make peace, to talk about it, to ask for forgiveness, we just keep this shut inside of us. And as Emmanuel talks here, we have a magnetic field around us. And when our ideas are not the best ideas, this can be a problem because we start attracting other negative ideas. We start attracting thoughts that sometimes are not even right ones. It's almost like our imagination fluctuates towards something even more negative than what it is in reality. So it's important for us to really understand it a little bit better. So let's try. Let me see who arrived here. Patrícia da Silva Pinto. Hello, Patrícia. Welcome. Teresa Castro. Hello, Teresa. Long time I haven't seen you here. Raquel Murray. Hello, Raquel. How are you, my darling? I'm super happy for your walk this weekend. It will be successful. I wish I could be there to help you in the organization of this wonderful event, but it will be great. Inner Enlightenment will be helping you. So my friends, please write anything you would like to talk about, what you understood about what Emmanuel said. But let's go little by little. Let's go back to the beginning of the chapter. Then he says, we develop feelings of guilt whenever we avoid fulfilling our duty. This then leads to various shades of remorse that thereby activates an infiltration of darkness within the delicate tissues of our soul. So it's almost like we are prepared, our machine, our physical machine, spiritual machine, is prepared to do good. So we are all prepared to do good. But whenever we don't do something good, immediately it triggers like a red flag, even if we don't realize it. There is a red flag that starts making things around us not really good. And we don't understand this immediately, but these are what he describes as these various shades of remorse. And yeah, sometimes you're going to say, well, I don't even remember feeling remorse for that. Yeah, sometimes we don't remember in that moment. Sometimes something happened to us that hurted us so much that the consequence of what we did, we in our mind, we think, no, that person deserved that. So we don't develop the guilt feeling immediately, but with the time, we will. With the time, we will. And that's why it comes in various shades, various different levels. And then let's continue. While repenting, the mental reflexes undergo painful, haunting memories, with slowly dripping poison into our thoughts. So poison into our thoughts. That's like when we start thinking about something or about a person, and suddenly the things start getting a little bit tougher than what really happened. It's almost like, let's suppose a very simple example. Very simple, okay? We are in a place and it's a little crowded, and suddenly someone stepped on our foot. And immediately we think, well, it's crowded and the person didn't see. But then this person don't apologize. And then you start like, I can't believe it. He did not apologize, so it was in purpose. So things start getting worse. So the simple agglomeration of people already becomes a thought of somebody doing it in purpose. And then we can continue, we can go on. Oh, I saw that guy didn't like me as soon as I arrived in this place. So you can see that it could be really our imagination being really darkened by these poison thoughts. It could be like that. So we should imagine if it could be like that. And then it continues. Like a magnetic field, every creature has a halo or aura of creative or destructive forces. So this halo that he's talking about is our magnetic field. So when we are well, when we are good, when we are vibrating positively, we attract spirits that are well, that are good, and that wish the exactly same thing we do in the positive way. But whenever we are not very good, whenever we are kind of cultivating negative thoughts. Maybe we had a bad day. The accumulation of negative thoughts is bigger too. And that's like this negative imagination. So we really have to break it. We really have, when we realize something is not good, we have to break it. And sometimes you're going to say, Angie, it's very difficult. When we have something negative, when we have a problem, it's very difficult to break it because something just happened or it's hurting me really bad and I don't want to talk about it. It's okay. But it's important for us to analyze that feeling, the feelings happening. Are you always like this? Do you always accumulate some kind of anger, some kind of a negativity, some kind of a problem that you do not talk about, that you do not revisit in a more positive way? Well, if your answer is yes, think about, because we know that our physical bodies vibrate in this energetic field that we cannot see. We cannot see energy, but we know energy is here. We know. So if you realize you are accumulating this, what can you do to change? What would you be able to do? Well, with me, I immediately pray. Asking for help, asking for guidance, asking to be more connected to my guardian angel so I can visualize a solution for that. But there are so many other ways. You can call a friend and then you can talk about it. You can listen to a guided meditation that will bring your mind away from that problem. So you can start thinking about positive things and momentarily forget about that. So you can revisit that later. But it's already good that you identify this negative pattern that you are going through. So you can work on it. The most important step is that recognizing something is not good, so you can fix it. And then Emmanuel continues. Since mental waves operate under the principle of electricity, I just talked about that, we begin to assimilate through these waves the depressed influences which emanate from the thoughts of both incarnated and discarnated beings. So it's important for us to understand what I mentioned before. So the incarnated beings, they are in that ambience, and we might have joined them because of a common thing, but the discarnated ones, they are kind of attracted to us. So they are thought to thought, very, very close to us, depending on our vibratory energy. So we can disconnect from these negative ones physically or spiritually. From the incarnated ones, if you are in a place, for example, if you are in a place for whatever reason, and suddenly you start listening people fighting, you start listening people cursing, and you start feeling the negative energy, why are you going to stay there? Please don't stay there. Leave. I know that in the past, I used to say, no, I will not be influenced by these vibrations because I vibrate in a higher level. Yeah, higher level like this, little millimeters, not like meters. And when we vibrate in a higher level, but it's so super close to the majority of the people, the tendency is that we are gonna mingle. We are gonna mingle with that negative vibration. And whatever they are going through, we are gonna go through, we are gonna start feeling. And it's not good for us. So the best way is really cut physically. So get out of this area, go to somewhere else and mingle with people that you feel more comfortable. And yes, when you have something in common with other people, you feel the vibration is different. That's why when we, for example, when we like the same type of sport, or when we like the same type of I don't know, subject, like you both like history, so you talk about it, or even spirituality. You both are spiritual beings, not necessarily spiritist, but the other person believes in reincarnation, for example. So there is something in common that makes you feel good and you want to interact more with that person. So everything happens to the positive, but it could also happen to the negative. But the negative, we keep it if we are not aware, if we are not paying attention. So it's important for us to be aware of this. So these beings, the incarnated or discarnated, they attune themselves to us through our actions and influence. So that's exactly what I said. So what we do is what we are. So we want to be positive. We want to do positive things to attract positiveness around us. So in the next page, Emmanuel starts. We project devastating energies through guilt and depression. Moreover, we often harbor a silent anger that projects our sorrow against ourselves into displeasure and dislike towards others. This is very important. So, devastating energies through guilt and depression. So we know how dangerous is depression. You know, there are so many different levels of depression, but we know that the deeper levels of depression, they are so difficult that they require really medication, because the person needs to have more balance to be able to go back to a little bit higher level of energy. And then through prayer, through treatments, to studies, or these are all the ways that we can help someone in the Spiritist Center, doing fraternal counseling. All this will help this person to get out of depression. Because we all go through difficult moments in life. Life is not perfect. That's why we are here in the planet Earth. Planet Earth is like this. The life is go ooh, and then falls, and then goes up and falls and goes in the middle. And as Chico Xavier always said, it also shall pass. Everything, good things and negative things. So it's not that something good happened that you're going to be feeling good forever, because you're still living here. You will face difficulties, you will face problems, you will face disagreements. But we all have to make amends. We have to understand, why is this happening? But most of all, why I'm allowing this to affect me so deeply? Why? We all go through problems, but when we allow this anger, negativity, guilt feelings to really penetrate our core, then we start going down. And then, yes, we can go into depression. A lot of people that I know, they say, depression is not for me. Are you kidding me? I have too many things to think about in order to be depressed. No. It's not like that. Depression can happen to anyone at any time. Anytime. We don't know exactly how it can be triggered. Yes, there are obvious reasons. People who are going through difficulties with their jobs, with their bills, with health. This could trigger something even deeper. But sometimes a person the life is going well, normal, nothing fantastic, but nothing really terrible. And little by little, the person will start getting different and do not recognize. So this is really for us to wake up. It's a wake-up call for us to analyze. And then he continues. The reason for these negative views expressed by others are the result of the guilt reflexes that whirl around us and are quickly incurred by the indisposition of others. They bring over to us silent messages of rebellion, discouragement, anguish, and despair that fluctuates around our psychic atmosphere. Wow, so it's almost like whatever we are thinking, whatever we are cultivating, but sometimes we are not talking about it. We are not talking about this to anyone. We are just keeping within ourselves. We are just thinking, wow, person A seemed so nice, but just did this, this, and this. And now show me, I'm seeing the other side. It's a very dark side. And then we start as I mentioned before, we start with more negative ideas about that person A. But let me tell you one thing. We all have this other side. There are no person in this planet that is absolutely perfect, that every single person loves that person. No, there is no one like that. You know, if you think about Jesus, the governor of planet Earth that came here with a message just of love, forgiveness, help the others, treat the others like you would like to be treated. And he was pretty much hated by a huge amount of people. How can you think that you will be loved by everyone? Especially when you start being, how can I say, you start being being more famous in certain things. I'm not talking about famous of being on TV, but being successful. I think that would be a better word. Being successful in your career or in your relationship or whatever you are doing. If you start appearing more, people will pay more attention to you and they will analyze you more. And yes, there will be more people that will like you, but it will always have the people that will be with negative feelings or envy or whatever. It doesn't matter because this is normal. What matters is that you have to understand that whenever you think about someone in a negative way, because yes, maybe the person really did something that's not good. But think also that sometimes we do things that we do not realize they were so negative. We do not realize they affected someone else in a very negative way either. So that's why it's so important for us try to avoid judging. Every time we think about someone and we see all the negativity, all the bad news about that person, we have to think that person also has positive sides. There are also good things. We might not know, but there are also positive things in everything in life. So this helps us to understand, yes, she did a mistake, but I did, or I also could have done something similar. Maybe I was not exposed to that situation in that moment. And then he continues. In this negative attitude, we lashed by the vibrations of our sickly thoughts, we reach a partial or total physical collapse. That's when we get exhausted. That's when comes the danger of getting physically sick. And it starts with a headache, or sometimes it starts with a cold, or sometimes some kind of stomach ache. And we do not realize that sometimes we produce that. Yes, I'm not saying that every single disease we have, it's because of this, because it's not. There are viruses, that's bacteria, there are all kinds of things, yes. But sometimes we allow this bacteria, we allow this virus to penetrate our physical bodies, and they bring these diseases because we were not able to cultivate positively our energy, and then our cells, they get weak and they cannot fight as they would. So this is what I'm trying to say. And then he continues, our body and soul develop complicated illnesses whose diagnosis elude classical pathology. The guilt feelings with all their disturbances will continually reflect upon areas of the body and soul corresponding to the type of remorse we carry. So it's almost like if we do not clean the remorse or the negativity we are carrying within us, we will not be able to get cured. Yes, we will take medication, and the medication will really fight the sick cells, and we will be good again. But if we continue with the negative feelings, with the guilt feelings, soon we will get sick again with something else. Maybe not the same cold, maybe not the same headache, something else. So that's why it's so important for us to watch ourselves. And if we live in a house where there are other people, especially if there are plants, if there are animals, if there are kids, and we cultivate this negativity in our vibration and then in the vibration of our home, we can bring this negativity to them because they are weaker. You know, the plants, they are the first one to get really bad. Givaldo Franco tells a story of a friend that went to his house, saw one of his plants, and said, "Oh, Givaldo, your plants are so beautiful. I cannot believe that my plants can never be as beautiful as yours. It's so terrible." And he says this person was a very nice person, was not a bad person. It was a very good friend, but the energy of envy was like envy that she felt by him being able to have a very beautiful plant and she could never have it. Maybe because she didn't water, maybe because she didn't put the plant on the sun, maybe because she didn't give a loving energy to the plant, so the plant died. And she looked at Givaldo's plant and is like, oh my God. So Givaldo says the next day, the plant was dead. So this is just for us to think like, whoa, that's really happens. And also our animals and also our kids, you know, our kids, they are weaker than us. They are less resistant than us. That's why if you can exercise the power of prayer in your home every day, this is a blessing. But even better is if you really can do the gospel at home once a week. Once a week, you do the gospel at home with your family or with your roommates or even by yourself. This is a way to invite the enlightened spirits to come, to join you, to do a cleansing of your home. So it will just be cultivating the positive energy. Even if you had brought some negative energy that week, when you do the gospel at home, that will be clean and everything will be good again. So these are things that we should really think and we should really put in practice. So finalizing here, Emmanuel says, likewise, neglecting one's duty also causes painful results, demanding restitution in each incarnation. So this is like in each incarnation. So which duties? What kind of duties is Emmanuel talking here? Well, so many. But imagine like a simple duty, a mother. You are a mother or a father. So you have that little child that God allow you to be able to be mother or father, and depends absolutely, totally of your care. You need to provide for this child. The child needs to eat, needs to be dressed, needs to go to school. So you need to do it. If you don't do it, that's a problem. So you say, oh, I don't do it because I'm very busy. I work the whole day. I have 3 jobs or whatever. So I pay a babysitter or the kid goes to school. Yes, it is possible. And nowadays with our crazy busy societies that the mother has to work so many hours, the father has to work so many hours. Sometimes both of them are away from the children. You have to make a way. We don't know when, the weekends, but you have to make a way to dedicate time for your children, at least to replace the hours that you are working so much in the weekend, so you can bond with your kids and you can continue establishing the rule that you requested. So imagine in another thing, imagine in the political sense, imagine a politician, imagine a governor of a city, of a state, or a president of a country, or even of a company. So under himself, there are responsibility of so many people. So his actions are extremely important. And if he through his let's say through his period of being governor, for example, he did lots of things that were not really good, and he wanted to do like that because he thought they were the best things in his view, but he did not listen to the people, or maybe he did not listen to the advisors. This will be carried on to his next life. Sometimes even in this life we see things happening, but for sure these negativity things, these wrong doings, when you have a position of power, will be carried with you, and it's very bad, it's very negative. So this sentence is very important. Likewise, neglecting one's duty also causes painful results, demanding restitution with each incarnation. So let's think about it. And then finalizing, therefore, guilt requires a readjustment with true humility in order to attain a quick settlement. This act of humility preserves our vibratory equilibrium, thereby avoiding a disturbing series of long reparative work. So when we become humble, when we recognize we did something wrong and it needs repair, needs reparation, we need to work towards that to make amends, then we might not need to carry these issues to different reincarnations. We can start making amends in this life. We can start seeing what was wrong and, okay, what can I do to change it? So that's the beauty of Spiritism, and that's the blessings of God, because God is not this negative being that has a book that writes every single mistake we commit. So we will have to come the next life to work on that. It's not exactly like that. If we are able to recognize and repair in this life, we are not going to carry this to the next one. What happens is that we do not recognize, we do not repent, and we do not work towards making it better. That's the problem. So the final paragraph, this is why Jesus advised us, not only as a divine master, but also as a wise physician, to reconcile with our adversary while we are still here with him on the path. Jesus taught us how to find happiness that is based on pure love and unlimited forgiveness. So if we were able really to love and to forgive, not just the others, but sometimes ourselves, life would be so much easier. So as you saw, sometimes we carry guilt with things that we did. So we carry this negative feeling within ourselves, and it brings so many other problems. But if we can start practicing the roller coaster a little bit more, so we are not just oh, and then we collapse. But if you are able to go a little bit more stable, life will be good, life will be better. So let's try this. Let's try to love more, forgive more, and be more positive, not judging too much, because we also make mistakes. So this will make the big difference. So we have to stop here, the thought and life, and now we change books. So we now go to the Gospel according to Spiritism. If you just arrived, please, you can go to my InnerLight the page on Facebook. Then you can go to photos and you can see the book there. And we are on page 53. We are studying chapter 1, Moses. So the last time we read about Moses, and we read that there are two distinct parts, that there is the Mosaic law and there is the disciplinary law. And we also read the 10 commandments that God transmitted to Moses and he wrote in the big stone piece. So tonight we are going to start reading on page 53. That's where is Kardec's comments about Moses. So he starts. This law this law is for all times and all nations. It's talking about the 10 commandments, the Mosaic law that God gave to Moses. So this law is for all times and all nations, and therefore has a divine character. All the others were laws established by Moses. He's talking about the disciplinary laws that Moses created, who had to use fear in order to restrain a naturally troublesome and indisciplined people, among whom he had to combat the deep-rooted abuses and the prejudices acquired during the slavery in Egypt. So imagine the time of Moses, much before Jesus Christ. And Jesus was more than 2,000 years ago, and Moses was 3,500 years before Jesus. So you can imagine this type of people that were living there. People that were really close to the cave ages. People that to decide a disagreement was almost like through killing. Like the stronger one will be the winner and will have the whatever they are fighting. So it was very difficult to Moses to be able to make these people to follow his rules. So Kardec continued. In order to give authority to his laws, he had to attribute them a divine origin, as did other lawgivers of early peoples. So Moses started creating laws to help to guide those people, to help to guide these very difficult people. And he started telling them he received another law from God. And the law was not from God, was from himself. Yes, he probably was very well connected with higher spirits in order to be able to create certain laws to guide them. But even Moses was not perfect. He also had his mistakes. And we are going to see why I'm talking about that. So Kardec continues. Human authority had to be based on God's authority, but only the idea of a terrible God could impress ignorant men and women, in whom moral sense and the sentiment of a refined justice were still little developed. It is quite obvious that the one who prescribed the commandments, you shall not kill, you shall not cause harm to your neighbor, could not be self-contradictory by making extermination a duty. The Mosaic laws per se thus had an essentially transitory character. So here is a comment that Kardec is talking about, that it's not possible the same law, the same being that said you shall not kill, then creates a law saying these people should be exterminated. It's like, it's crazy. It's like, it's not the same person. How, or this person is bipolar. I'm kidding. But it's almost like God says one day, you shall not kill. And the other day he said, these people have to be exterminated. And why I'm talking about this? Because here when Kardec talks about by making extermination a duty, there is in Deuteronomy, I think it's in English, there is a law that's commented in the Deuteronomium, I don't know how it is in English, where it states that Moses received a law that the Canaanites, people who lived in a place called the Canaan, they should be exterminated. They should all be killed. So this is historical fact. You can Google, and you will see Deuteronomy, and you can put Deuteronomy, Moses extermination, Canaan, and we'll talk about it. And there are lots of experts, historical experts, that talk about in the end this did not happen because Moses came back and he said God had changed the law and there were not going to be a necessity to exterminate the Canaanites people. So this is interesting. Wow. So Moses thought they had to be exterminated. So this is showing that he was a being from that time. He was involved in these difficult times. Even if he was a much more elevated being from the majority of the people, he also had his ups and downs. But one of his up moments that I always love is talking about the law of divorce. So in the time of Moses, the men were allowed to have many wives, up to 10 wives. Each man could have up to 10 wives. And what happened is that with the time, the older wife was kind of abandoned. And in the end, it became really abandoned because the husband just threw her out of the house. And because of their society was already full of rules, full of stigma, if a married woman is abandoned by her husband, she cannot go back to her father's home. So what this woman will do? In that time, women had no jobs. What they did was to take care of the family. They had to cook, they had to clean, they had to sew clothes, they had to do so much. It was like an intense job, not paid, and very intense. So Moses, seeing this going on, what he did, he established many laws. Little by little, he started establishing laws. And then he started establishing the maximum number of wives were 10. And then he established that the husband has to have enough of a salary. He had to make enough money to provide to all of the wives. And then he said, if an older wife has to be abandoned, she has to receive a salary to be able to survive. And this is really an improvement because, as I was just talking about, she could not go back to her father's house. So she had two options, basically. One was to be homeless, to live on the streets and begging for money, begging for anything that she could survive. And the other option was to be a prostitute. So it was really terrible. Moses saw this and he started establishing this. So if you want to now divorce your older wife, you have to provide her a salary that she will be able to survive. She will be able to eat, to have a place to survive. And this is beautiful because he was a visionary. He saw that touching the pockets of this man, little by little things would start changing. And then it really changed. And with the time, the Hebrew people became monogamic. So they could not have more 10 wives. They really had one wife. So, and then we have our society of nowadays. So this is beautiful. This is really interesting. This is historical fact. So let's move on to Christ, number 3. And please, I talk so much. If you want to make any comments, if you want to say anything, just write it there. I don't even see if you guys wrote, and I'm not following. So sorry. I didn't see we have things here. So Teresa wrote, We haven't been here. Yes, Teresa, you haven't been. Guilherme and Carla, welcome. I'm glad you were able to join us. This is awesome. Claudia Garces, hey, Claudia, long time don't see you. So Teresa wrote, meditate and journaling. Yes, journaling is very interesting. We read about things that we wrote when we were angry, for example, and then we're like, whoa, my God. Or when we are very inspired and we're like, wow, look what I wrote. This is so nice. I wish I could be like this every day. I used to write a lot. So how do I say this? Zeldiko Milekovic, welcome. I hope I pronounced your name well. Hi from Serbia, listening to your radio in Serbia. That's phenomenal, from Serbia. Yay, welcome. This is great. I'm very happy about it. Thank you for joining us. Yara Gouveia, my dear friend, mwah! Very nice to have you here. Clélia Cunha, welcome. Sunshine back. Hello, Sunshine. Welcome. And Teresa wrote again, Spiritism is helping me be in the Word, but not to fall to all its influences. Yes, Teresa, exactly. Because, you know, it's normal for us to go up and down. It's normal for us to sometimes to have negative thoughts or bad impressions. And sometimes we really have a bad impression of someone that's not necessarily true. Sometimes it's really not necessarily true. And with the time we see, wow, what I thought was so different. But it's important for us to see this, to recognize this, and to change. Like I already said, no, let's think about the positive qualities of the person. Let's focus on that. So we kind of, for that moment, we don't think about the wrongdoings. And also pray for the person, you know. We always talk about prayer, and when we pray for ourselves. Oh, God, please help me to have patience. But we also should have to pray for someone else if we are having some kind of difficulty. If it's a boss, a co-worker, if it's someone, our neighbor, even in the Spiritist Center. Because we know the Spiritist Center is our family, our spiritual family. So we are meeting there, we think, oh, the first time I'm meeting this person. Sometimes we have met many other times in different positions. Maybe we were family members, maybe we're best friends, maybe, who knows. And we are meeting again. But again, we both are meeting with the same purpose. The purpose of Spiritism, the purpose of bettering ourselves, the purpose of learning our mistakes and changing. That's the thing. That's the important thing, to change to the better. And then Anthony, hey Anthony Perez, how are you, my friend? I was just in New York until this morning. My flight was 5 o'clock in the morning. Can you believe it? I wish I could have seen you. I wish you could have gone to Inner Enlightenment, but welcome. So very good. We have 7 minutes. So let's read page 53, Christ. Number 3. Jesus did not come to destroy the law. That's it. That is God's law. He came to fulfill it. That is to develop it, to give it its true meaning, and to adapt it to the degree of humankind's advancement. That is why that in this law may be found the principle of duty to God and one's neighbor, which comprises the basis of his doctrine. On the contrary, as far the laws of Moses per se, Jesus modified them profoundly, either in form or in substance. He constantly combated the abuse of outward practice and erroneous interpretations, and he could not make them undergo a more radical reform than that of reducing them to these words: love God above all things and your neighbor as yourself. And in stating, this is the whole of the law, this is the whole of the law and the prophets. So this is good for us to see that Jesus came not to change everything, like he was accused so many times that he was like changing everything, he did not respect anything. Was not what he was doing, but the population, some of the people could not understand. He came to fulfill it, to further explain it. Because in the time of Moses, Moses couldn't explain to those people. Imagine, they have to decide who is going to have the biggest goat, and they start fighting. And they are decided to kill themselves, to kill each other, to see who will keep the goat. So imagine that time, how difficult it was. So imagine in the time of Jesus, when Jesus came and Jesus was saying, you have to forgive each other. You have, like in a case like that, Jesus would say, forgive each other. If you cannot decide who will keep the goat, kill it and share it. And they wouldn't be able to accept. So Jesus came to further explain. And exactly as we're going to see, Spiritism later on came to further explain what Jesus couldn't explain to us, because in that time we also reincarnated there and we couldn't understand everything. That's why Jesus had to always speak in parables, because through the metaphors, through the stories, through the ideas, we would think about it, trying to understand, not fully understand, but trying to understand. And then Kardec continues, by these words, heaven and earth shall not pass away before everything is fulfilled, up to one single iota. Jesus meant that it would be necessary for God's law to receive its fulfillment, that is, to be practiced all over the earth, in all its purity, with all its development, and all of its consequences. For what good would it have done to be established this law if it were to have remained the privilege of only a few people, or even of one sole nation? As children of God, all humans are without distinction the object of the same solicitude. So Jesus knew that for his law to be fully understood, the population in general had to be able to be more evolved, and they would have to be practicing his law of love and forgiveness to the little tiniest iota. Wouldn't be like, today I'm more forgiving, tomorrow I get angry, I don't forgive anyone. Today I love my son, tomorrow I don't love my husband, tomorrow I don't love my neighbor. So we are people that we have these tendencies. And when we are good, wow, we love everyone. Oh, today I love everyone, I forgive everyone. When something goes wrong, I can't stand anyone. And we are like that. So that's why Kardec is explaining that Jesus knew that. Jesus knew he was planting the seed for us to one day to be able to understand all his teachings. And that's exactly what Kardec is explaining here. So let's read number 4. So next week we can start in talking about Spiritism. So Jesus' role, however, was not simple, that of a moralistic lawgiver with no other authority than his own word. He came to fulfill the prophecies that had announced his coming. His authority derived from the exceptional nature of his spirit and his divine mission. He came to teach humans that the true life is to be found not on the earth, but in the kingdom of heaven. To teach them the way that leads there, the means of reconciling themselves to God and to forewarn them regarding the progress of future things for all the fulfillment of human destiny. Nonetheless, he did not say everything, as I said, and at many points he limited himself to sowing the seed of the truths that he himself declared could not yet be comprehended. He spoke of all things, but in terms explicitly in varying degrees. In order to understand the hidden meaning of certain words, it would be necessary for new ideas and knowledge to come to provide humans the key. And such ideas could not come before the human mind had acquired a certain degree of maturity. That's amazing. Science would have to contribute strongly toward the emergence and development of these ideas. Therefore, it would be necessary to give science time to progress. This is beautiful. So Jesus knew everything, of course. He knew we were his little kids that need so much to be able to progress and to develop. And we know that in the time of Jesus, the apostles, one of them asked Jesus, Master, why do you talk to them in parables, but to us you talk directly? So then, that the apostle that's talking are the population, the big mass of people. So the apostle was saying, when you talk to the population, you always talk in parables, but when you talk to us, you talk directly. And then Jesus answered, because you are more prepared. You can understand me. They cannot yet. And we know the apostles, they were picked one by one in the spiritual realm to come back to earth in this mission that Jesus had organized. There is a book of Humberto de Campos that he talks about it. And he explains the disciples, they were being prepared to come in very humble positions, but spiritually they were much more evolved than the majority of the people on earth. So this is the beautiful message of Jesus. The governor of the planet Earth decided to come to the planet Earth to live amongst us, to teach us his example. Of course, in that time, most of us, we couldn't understand. But nowadays, through so many reincarnations, we are finally getting it. Still difficult, but we are finally getting it. And because I was not here last week, next week we will have another class. So next week we will study the book Thought and Life, chapter 23, Assistance. And this book, The Gospel According to Spiritism, we will study about Spiritism. So we will be able to further develop in this beautiful study, in this beautiful knowledge. And let me see if anyone wrote anything else. Anthony, next time. Yes, next time I go to New York, we meet probably in Christmas time. Let's see. So my friends, it was a pleasure to be here. I'm very happy you were able to join. If you couldn't see us live, I'm sure you can listen to Kardec Radio. There are so many beautiful studies, so many books that you can follow there, or even here on Facebook in the recorded session. So now we are going to finalize with our prayer. So tonight when we go to sleep, we will be able to fully understand what we talked about, and it will penetrate more in our spiritual being. So we will wake up tomorrow feeling less guilt and connecting less with the negative feelings. Okay? Very good. So let's relax, close our eyes. Almighty God, Our dear brother, Jesus, thank you so much for your love, your care, for so many blessings we are constantly receiving in our lives. Please stay with us, help us to be able to fully understand all these messages. Help us to have a blessed night with beautiful dreams where we are going to be with our guardian angels, visiting locations where we can hear, see, and study much, much more and deeper than what we did right now. And please help all of us to be able to come back here again next Thursday to continue the study. Thank you so much. So be it. Very good, my friends. It's awesome. Thank you so much for being here. It was great. And I hope to see you again next Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much. God bless all of you and see you soon. Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye, Carla. Bye, Guilherme. Bye-bye.